Hello and welcome back to the My Tehillim Time Omer edition. We are in day 4. My name is Orly Waba. I'm the founder of Abraham's Legacy, a social network for Tefillah, focused on Tehillim and the power that it has when we come together and read in unison with all of our hearts. I'm so excited for the series that we've been doing. I just want to thank so many of you that have been reaching out and sharing the impact that the classes have had. It makes me so happy to hear. And I had the opportunity today, because I'm still coming to you today from the Kinneret, just like yesterday. So we're in good company. We have Rami Beer, the Baal Hanes, a half a block away this way, Rambam and Rabbi Akiva on the other side. So we're very much in good company. And I had the opportunity to actually bump into one of our Abraham's Legacy members and a very, very good friend of mine today. So it's been really wonderful. Thank you for joining us for today. For those of you that this is your first time joining, welcome. I just want to let you know that if you've missed any of the classes up until now, you'll have the opportunity to check them out on our YouTube channel for Abraham's Legacy. If you've signed up for this event, in the email that you get prior to each event, you'll have the link to the recordings, but you can also go to YouTube and just click on Abraham's Legacy. You'll see them all there. They're also on our website. So check them out. Feel free to share them with anyone that you like. I want to just mention something very important. Tonight's entire program is sponsored by Debbie Silverman, Li'ilui Nishmat, her brother, Yonah Ben Yehuda, Jonah Goldsmith. Jonah passed away in the first round of COVID. And tonight, right now, we're in Rosh Chodesh. So happy Rosh Chodesh to everyone. Bezrat Hashem, his neshama should have an aliyah. And the entire program, the 2 sessions that we're having and the Tehillim read that we will be doing at the end is going to be Li'ilui Nishma of Jonah. So please keep that in mind. I will mention his name again before the Tehillim read. And Bezrat Hashem, through all of our tefillot, he will have an aliyah. I'm going to ask everyone, if this is your first time hearing about Abraham's Legacy, this is an app. It's a Tehillim app that allows people to collectively complete the book of Tehillim in unison, in real time, with people from all over the world, in all different languages. Currently, the app is in Hebrew, English, Spanish, and French. So especially because we're going to be reading Tehillim today, Li'ilui Nishma, a very special person, I'm going to ask that as many of us as possible, those of you that have a smartphone, feel free to download the app. You can do it now. You'll be able to do it at the end of the program as well. I'm going to show a quick video showing how we're going to be reading in unison. And we're going to put 6 minutes on the clock to read together. And Bezrat Hashem, finish at least one book of Tehillim in that 6-minute period. So stay tuned for that. Please don't go right after the 2 speakers. I also want to make just a couple of additional announcements for those of you that have been sponsoring, dedicating chapters of Tehillim. I've received them. You should receive my emails as well, saying that I've received them. And the names for your loved one with the perek, for those of you that selected a perek, will be going up right after Motzei Shabbat. So Motzei Shabbat, all of them are going to go up, and I will send you an email so that you know that their name, that your loved one's name is on that perek. And Bezrat Hashem will be for whether it be a week or a month based on what you've selected. In addition, when you dedicate a chapter of Tehillim, and you can do so in the app or on our website at abrahamslegacy.com, you'll also be entered into our raffle. We have some incredible raffle prizes, which include a copy of our book, of Reuben Ebrahimoff's book, From Your Lips to God's Ears, our 100% pure Copper Netillah cup, books from our speakers, a tour of Yerushalayim in the footsteps of David HaMelech, of Ir David, and other locations within Yerushalayim. These are all of the things that are going to be included in the raffle. By next week, hopefully all of you will be able to see the exact prizes in the package so that you can actually see what it's about. To qualify, like I said, whether you're sponsoring a chapter of Tehillim or whether you make a minimum donation of $18 to Abraham's Legacy to help keep us going, this is a complete L'Shem Shamayim project that I created in memory of my grandfather, Avraham Ben Polin. And we want to continue not only bringing programming, but bringing incredible new features to this app. They will blow you away, Bezrat Hashem, but this is a team effort. So Bezrat Hashem, please do your best to take part in the raffle. For those of you that like to see the full agenda of the program, all you need to go is to go to abrahamslegacy.com/sign up. And there you'll see all of the speakers and the days that they're speaking. Our Zoom link is the same every night. That's another question I wanted to answer. It's the same link. So if for some reason you didn't get the email reminder, just know it's always the same link, always the same time, 8 p.m. Israel time, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I'm very excited for tonight's program. We have two incredible speakers. And our first speaker, Rebbe Gila Ross, is going to be speaking about the pathway to balance and beauty, focusing on chapter 16 in Tehillim. So if you have your Tehillim book, you can grab it out, or if you have the Abraham's Legacy app, you can actually pull up the chapter on your phone so that you can follow along. Rebbe Gila Ross is an accomplished educator, podcast host, mom of 8. That in itself is a tremendous accomplishment. Certified parent educator and coach with 20 years experience. She lived in Israel, Germany, Canada, and the UK, and her podcast was named the top Jewish podcast worldwide. Her book, called Living Beautifully, check it out, showing how to use the timeless wisdom of Pirkei Avot to create more joy, meaning, and love in your life, is coming out in the spring. She's been published by Aish.com and JewInTheCity.com. You could follow her on Instagram as well. Her handle is It's Gila Ross. We're going to put that in the chat, so not to worry. And of course, join her Facebook group for Jewish women, the Global Sisterhood. I just have to say, Gila is actually featured in the Uplift magazine. We're going to be hearing from the editor-in-chief of Uplift shortly. It's an incredible publication, which I highly recommend. This is also going to be incorporated into the raffle, but we'll hear more about that. But just so that you know, if you grab a copy of Uplift, which will be one of the raffle prizes, you'll get to see as well beautiful articles written by Rebbe Gila Ross. So without further ado, I give you Rebbe Gila Ross. Thank you so much for being here.
Firstly, thank you so much for inviting me to be part of this special project. It's really, really beautiful to see how, Tehillim is an incredible tool that we have to communicate with Hashem, to develop our relationship with Hashem, and anything that we can kind of do to help us connect to Tehillim is just such a beautiful project. So thank you so much for putting this together, putting the effort into it. It's amazing, and thank you for inviting me to be part of it. I feel very honored, and I feel the holiness of this project. So thank you so much. So what I want to do tonight is I want to talk a little bit about Tehillim, but before I do that, I want to talk about the time that we are in the Omer now, right? We are now in the third week of the Omer, which is every week of the Omer is a different sephirah. This one is the Tiferet, right? Which is kind of, it's one of those words I think that we kind of hear, but it's actually what I want to do is I want to sort of look at what is it, what does it feel like, and how can we get it in our life. So firstly, what is Tiferet? And it's one of those words I think that we can translate as harmony, as beauty, but what actually is it? So imagine for a minute, right, that you go and you see a beautiful painting, right? That is Tiferet, right? What is it? Because a painting, what makes a painting beautiful is when you have the different colors, the different shapes, and it comes together to create something beautiful. That is a thing of beauty. The same thing is if you're listening to a symphony, a choir. What makes it beautiful is that you have all these different sounds, right? Everyone singing their part, and the different elements come to it together to create a thing of beauty. And I think it's really what we want in life, right? We all want to feel that we live a life of beauty, right? We have that harmony, right? That beauty really in our lives. So what is it? What is it? So first, let's get into what does it feel like, right? So imagine yourself looking at a beautiful painting, right? Or imagine yourself listening to a beautiful choir. Or perhaps imagine a moment in life when you have put a lot of energy into it. Maybe it's a project that you worked on. Maybe it's a beautiful meal that you created for your loved ones, or it's something that you put a ton of energy into, and that moment where you've achieved it, where all the different parts have come together, right? Stop for a second and try and feel that, right? That moment. Or imagine if you've gone through a difficult time, right? And you have a moment of clarity, right? Of understanding, where, wow, now I understand why this had to happen, right? We don't always get that in life, but sometimes we get a glimpse of that. That feeling, which is very hard to put into words, but I hope that you're getting a sense of it, is what we talk about when we talk about Tiferet, right? It's that harmony, it's that balance, it's that beauty, right? Now, how do we get to it? Now, if you look at Tiferet, it first comes Chesed, which is kindness, then comes Gevurah, which is discipline, strength, and then comes Tiferet. And there's a reason why that happens, because what is Tiferet? We kind of have, Rav Dessler talks about this, is that there's different character traits, right? Some people naturally are born more towards the side of Chesed, right? And Chesed is the attribute we translate it as kindness, but really what it is it's that outpouring, that giving, that wanting to give. That's kindness. And then some people, on the other hand, they are more the type of person to be Gevurah. What is Gevurah? What is strength? It's that discipline, right? And it's almost like it's that restraint. If you think of Chesed as the outstretched hand, and you think of Gevurah as like that hand that kind of stops, that restraint, that self-control, that is Gevurah. Now, if I were to ask you which one is good, which one is better, the answer to that is either you could say both or neither. What do I mean by that? Is Chesed can be beautiful. It can also be destructive, right? If a person gives Chesed in the time where it's not called for, it could be destructive, right? A parent, for example, who gives and who gives and who gives and who gives to a child, but doesn't know when to step back, right? When to take an extreme example, right? Imagine a parent of a young child, right, who says, I'm going to give this child everything. I'm going to hold their hand forever. I'm using an extreme example because I think that can help us to understand it, is that we understand that that's not a good thing, because if you hold the child's hand forever, literally, the child will never learn to walk, right? So Chesed can be beautiful, right? We have to give Chesed. Abraham was Chesed, right? We have to do it, but it can also be destructive. Let's put that to the side for a minute. What about Gevurah? Self-control, discipline. It's a beautiful thing, right? How can you accomplish anything in life without self-control, without discipline? We all know that, in order to get anywhere in life, you have to have self-control, you have to have discipline. But Gevurah, self-control, discipline, can also be control, and discipline can also be a damaging thing, right? Again, let's take the example of a parent, right? Or take the example of yourself. If a person is very, very disciplined, right, but there isn't that outpouring of love and kindness, that's also very damaging. Or if, God forbid, a person takes this midah of Gevurah and tries to control other people, it's a terrible thing. It could be a terrible thing, right? So which one is it? Which one do we strive for? Do we strive for Chesed or do we strive for Gevurah? So this is where Tiferet comes in, because Tiferet tells us when we need to use Chesed and when we need to use Gevurah. Rav Dessler actually points this out, and I think it's something that he points out in our forefathers, and it's something that we can recognize in our own life as well. He points out that people that are naturally tend towards Chesed will be tested in the area of Gevurah, right? If you think of Abraham's tests, all of Abraham was this giant of kindness, right? Outpouring. He had his Brit Milah, he was in terrible pain. He's out there inviting guests into his home. What is his challenge? His challenge is the epitome of Gevurah, right? He's challenged by asking him to send away his child. Like, how do you do that? How does a parent like Abraham, who's Chesed, send away his son Ishmael? Right? It was an incredible challenge for him. One of his other challenges, he's in challenge with the Akedah, right? Which is the whole discussion of its own, what exactly it meant. But for a second, just it's the epitome of Gevurah, right? A love for a child. A parent's love for a child is up there. And for a parent to be able to overcome that love and say, no, Gevurah, discipline, I'm going to do what God's asking me to do. Right? Again, what exactly God was asking him to do, how we understand it, it's a whole nother thing. But for a moment, let's get into the understanding that where his tests were in the area of Gevurah. And the same thing with Yitzchak, right? Yitzchak was naturally an ish, like he was a person with self-control, with discipline. He was Gevurah, and he was challenged with chesed, right? With giving. Why does Hashem do this? And we see this in ourselves as well, right? One of the, I think, the easiest ways to kind of understand, like people generally, if you look at yourself, you'll see that generally people are either more inclined towards chesed and more inclined to gevurah, right? The people that are more inclined to say yes, 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 and give and give and give, generally that's their tendency is towards chesed. The people that are more inclined to say no and to have discipline are gevurah. Now again, neither is better than the other, but what will happen is Hashem will test us, God will test us in the other area. Why? Because that's our opportunity to develop Tiferes, to develop that balance that comes from beauty. Because chesed is only beautiful when it's kindness, when it's given in the right place at the right time to the right people. If you're kind to the wrong people, you're kind in the wrong places, it can be terribly destructive. So true. Gevurah is only beautiful, harmonious when it's in the right place, right? Tiferes teaches us when to use kindness and when to use gevurah. So how do we know when to use Tiferes? Like how do we know? How can we achieve this balance? And if you think about it, so many of the struggles that we have in our life come down to Tiferes, right? If you think about this big struggle of work-life balance, right? What is it? At the end of the day, it's a struggle of Tiferes, right? That work is important, life is important, family is important, doing chesed for others is also important. The question is when, right? How do we balance that? How do we achieve the balance? So much of what we struggle with is achieving this Tiferes. So how do we get it? And this is where King David tells us, right? In Perek 16 of Tehillim, right? There is a couple of sentences in there that King David tells us, which is the secret. It is the answer of how we can develop Tiferes, how we can grab hold of this Tiferes and live that harmonious, balanced life, right? And what does he say? He says, sorry, hold on just a moment. Oops, lost the place. Sorry about that. He says, Shvisi Hashem lenegdi tamid. I have placed Hashem before me always. Kimi mini bal emot, right? Because he is at my right hand, I shall not falter. It sounds like a small sentence. It might be a sentence that you're familiar with, but the brilliance behind it is the answer. What is he saying? He tells us, Shvisi Hashem lenegdi tamid. I always hold Hashem before me. Right? And the commentaries say that what he's saying is that, he says, mimini, my right hand, right? Your hand is attached to you, right? There's no getting away from it. You wake up in the morning, it's there. You go to sleep at night, it's there. Anything you do, it's right there. You cannot get away from it. He's saying this is what Hashem and what King David meant. It's like my right, like my hand is in front of me. I cannot get away from it. It's constantly on my sight. It's in my sight. It's in my vision. It's on my mind. So too are you, Hashem. And that means that every single time, every step that he takes in life, Hashem is in front of me. It means he recognizes that everything that happens is coming from Hashem. When a person recognizes that everything that happens is coming from Hashem, they have a totally different approach, right? When someone does something that's upsetting, and you have to deal with it in whichever way you deal with it. But when we have that understanding that at the end of the day, it's coming from Hashem, and it's coming from a God who loves me, who wants the best from me, right? Who's sending this to me because he loves me, not because he's punishing me, but because he loves me and he wants to bring out the best for me, then it's a different way to go through it. And when a person is faced with a situation where they don't know, do I do chesed now? Do I do gevura now? Is it a time for giving? Is it time for holding back? And they ask themselves, what does Hashem want from me? That's how they achieve balance. Now, it could be a person will ask themselves, what does Hashem want from me? And they won't have an answer, right? Because we don't always have an answer. We don't know it on our own. But Hashem created us as part of a community, right? And that is why we have rabbis, Rebbetzins, mentors that we can go to and speak things. We hopefully are part of a community. And in I think nowadays when it's with initiatives like this, even if your community, your in real life community is harder, join a virtual community of growth, like-minded people that can help you, that you can discuss things through. And the other part of it is also have students, people that you can teach, right? Because that is also a beautiful way for us to understand and keep on to that vision of what does Hashem want from me. And I heard a beautiful line from Yafa Palti. She says, people struggle with people pleasing, right? The way to get around that is to become a God pleaser, right? And this is what King David is saying. This is what King David is saying. He's saying, Shavisi Hashem Negdi Summit. Hashem is always in front of me every single time, from the decision of where do I park, or how do I respond to that email, or what should my next step in life be? The question is, what does Hashem want from me? And if we don't know the answer, we reach out to others that can help give us the answer. And that is how we achieve balance. And then he says, right, what is the result of putting Hashem constantly before me? He says, therefore, Lachain, therefore, Samach Libi, my heart rejoices. Vayogel Kavodi, and my soul is elevated, is elated. Af Besari Yishkan Lavetach. Even my flesh, my body rests in confidence. All parts of him is happy, is achieving that beauty, and it's beautiful. He has this confidence, right? Why does he have this confidence? And Rashi, I believe, says, the Radak says the reason why he has the confidence is because he knows. He's thinking that of the time that Hashem, I sinned, right, with the story of Bathsheba, right? He whatever it was a mistake, however we understand that story. But Hashem gave him the opportunity for teshuvah, right? And he has that complete confidence in Hashem that you're not going to let me fall, right? Because even if I make a mistake, you're going to be there to redirect me. And in our life too, this is something that we have to understand, that there's no such thing as failure, right? It's either we win or we get feedback, right? And when we're open to that feedback, it just helps us grow and grow. So let's just sum up what we were talking about. We're in the week of Tiferes. Tiferes is that harmony, that balance that we all want in our life. And what is it at the core? It's knowing when to use chesed, when to hold back and use gevura. How do we do it? King David HaMelech tells us, you do it by putting Hashem in front of you as though it's your right hand, right? You're indetachable. And I want to give us two practical ways of how to do it. Number one is get into the habit of noticing the small things, that happen, whether they're good things or whether they're things I recognize that this is coming from Hashem, right? It's a habit we can get into. Try once a day to find something that was a little bit like, that is Hashem, right? Maybe you're driving somewhere and you find a parking spot where you didn't expect it, or someone says something to you that's so out of the norm that you've got to say, wow, this is from God, right? Recognize those small pockets, windows of where it's coming from Hashem. And the second thing is take a moment at the end of each day to do a small review. It doesn't have to be long. You're going to bed, at the end of the day, you're lying, you're relaxing. Review. See if there's one thing that either you can feel proud of yourself that you had that Tiferet, or that you can learn from, right? You can say, you know what? Maybe I should have done it differently. But that is something that I can learn for tomorrow. And that is how we bring this balance, this Tiferet, this harmony, this beauty into our life. Thank you very much.
Wow. Thank you so much, Rebbetzin, for sharing. I love that concept. Balance is, I say balance is it's really easy to get. It's hard to maintain. That's the hardest thing. You can get to a place of balance, but maintaining the balance, that's like, it's such a struggle. But the concept of what you shared in terms of how Tiferet is the balance between Gevurah and Chesed, I think it speaks to many of us. I'll tell you a story popped into my mind as you were speaking. It's a story that we probably all know. I'm sure you know the story of the butterfly, right? When the caterpillar is becoming a butterfly, and this child is watching it and he's seeing that it's pushing, it's trying to get out of its cocoon, and he feels so bad. He's suffering, trying to get, it looks like he's moving a mountain. And so, child starts taking off little by little from the cocoon, thinking he's helping this caterpillar turn into a butterfly. And the minute he comes out, he flies for a little bit and then falls down dead. He says, well, why did it happen? I was trying to do something good. Because we don't realize sometimes we need actually the ability that hardship is there so that we can strengthen our muscles, so that when the time comes, we're able to fly away. So understanding when to give and when to really react in Gevurah. It's such a tremendous thing, especially for those of us here. And I know there are many of us that are givers, that sometimes we give to the point where it sort of feels like sacrifice, and giving should never feel that way. Giving is supposed to always feel, it makes us feel absolutely incredible. It's coming from a place of abundance. Like when we're lighting a candle, we can continue to light so many other candles, but that's still, that first candle still retains its flame. It's not a sacrifice, but rather it's an opportunity for tremendous growth. I really want to thank you so much for your words. And I want to encourage all of you, those of you that have the Uplift magazine, or you might want to get it, just know that there are articles in here by the Rebbetzin. And of course, you can learn more about the Rebbetzin on her handles that we placed on the chat. Thank you so much for your time. I'm very grateful for you to be here.
Thank you.